Public Service Commission of the District of Columbia is spreading the word about utility scams and how to protect yourself, your family, and your community. Hi, I'm Emile Thompson, the chairman of the DC Public Service Commission. Today, I'm joined by Ben Wiseman of the Office of the Attorney General. Ben is the head of the Office on Consumer Protection. Thanks for joining me today, Ben.
Great, thank you. It's great to be here.
So Ben, tell us a little bit about your role at the Office of Attorney General and what you do to help protect the residents and the customers in the District of Columbia.
So I serve as the director of the Office of Consumer Protection for Attorney General Racine. And in that role, we supervise a team of lawyers and paralegals, as well as staff, who are charged with protecting the interests of the 700,000 district residents and making sure that their consumer rights are protected.
And how does that specifically translate to utilities and utility scams?
We have four main roles when it comes to scams generally and also utility scams. The first is we bring lawsuits against companies that violate the district's consumer protection laws, that deceive consumers and take money from them that they don't deserve. So that's one way we help consumers in the district. The second way is through a mediation and investigation program. So consumers can file complaints with our office, and we provide advice to people and also help and try to investigate and get people's money back from consumers. It's been an incredibly successful program. We've recovered well over $1 million for district residents since AG Racine took office. The third component is we worked with the council to pass legislation to protect consumers. We worked on some of the emergency bills that protected consumers with respect to utilities out of the coronavirus pandemic. And the fourth is we do things like we're doing today. We're out in the community talking to people, working with our fellow agencies to make sure that we're doing our best for consumers in DC.
Okay. Has your office seen an uptick in scams, specifically as it relates to utilities?
We have. We've seen an uptick in scams generally and an uptick with respect to utilities. In 2021 alone, we received over 2,500 complaints to our consumer protection hotline. That was a 70% increase over the past 2 years. We think part of that is the result of the COVID pandemic and scams, including utility scams that have arisen out of the pandemic, but also our outreach efforts to try to make sure we're reaching consumers and district residents across the city.
I know you talked a little bit about what your office is doing, I guess on the back end once the complaint is filed, but talk a little bit about what you guys are doing on the proactive end so that consumers, residents aren't falling victim to these scams.
We really do invest in consumer education. So if you go to our website at oag.dc.gov and click on consumer protection, there's a host of manuals and guides and references for folks who have concerns or questions about scams and other consumer protection issues. But also our hotline serves not just as a place to investigate complaints and to try to bring lawsuits or help folks get their money back, but also as a resource to people. Our mediators are trained, they know steps consumers can take and try to help consumers walk through issues when they confront scams.
Okay. What tips do you have for the residents of the District of Columbia to help prevent them from falling prey to these scams?
So, I think the old adage remains true. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So just be careful when you think there's a deal out there that seems too good to be true. The second thing we tell people is get a gut check from people who you know and trust in your community, whether it's friends or families or neighbors. If someone approaches you and you have any suspicion that this doesn't seem right, get a gut check from someone. That's a great first step to help you know whether or not you think something is a scam. And finally, avoid strange payment systems. Don't try to pay something over Venmo or a payment system. Don't use gift cards. Those are typical ways in which scammers use to take money from folks. So we just caution people whenever they're asked to pay through any of those types of systems, just be extra cautious.
I'm glad you mentioned the payment fraud because that seems to be a big one that's going on right now. Are there any other, big trend scams that are going on that people should kind of have their eye out for?
Imposter scams is one that we're seeing a huge rise in. People posing as the government, saying you owe your utility bill and we're going to shut off your power, but also people posing as utility companies, saying that your bill is due or your bill's past due and we're going to send you to collections. We've seen a rise in those types of telemarketing scams that are based on impostering a government official or a company.
Okay. Now, I've heard a lot about the email scams, email phishing. Is your office seeing a lot of that as well?
We do see a lot of the email phishing scams. In that respect, we try to do a lot of consumer education and stop these on the front end. If you go to our blog at oag.dc.gov, you'll see we have consumer alerts when we started to see an uptick in certain scams. So we've seen some utility scams, and there's a blog post, a few about utility scams that we've seen come up, but also some of the phishing scams as well. Warning folks, don't click on any links you're not sure of. And again, if you don't expect a business to be contacting you, they're probably not.
Okay. So Ben, you've talked about customers being targeted. Is there a certain demographic or class that's being targeted, or is this kind of equal opportunity?
Candidly, we think this is really equal opportunity. We've seen residents across the district being impacted by scams, but we encourage folks to report them to our office because we keep track of that type of data, and we produce consumer reports to make sure we understand where our consumers are being impacted and what type of scams are impacting residents across the city.
If a DC resident falls victim to a scam, what are their next steps?
So the first thing we recommend people is if you've lost money through a scam is you should contact MPD, the financial crime section, and report it. The second thing you should do is contact our office, either at oag.dc.gov. You can file a complaint. You can call us at 202-442-9828 or email at consumer.protection@dc.gov. And we can walk you through the next steps to protect yourself. A few common things we'll tell people is alert your financial institution, your banks, and to have a fraud alert put up on your accounts, and also freeze your credit. We think everyone should have, if you can, try to freeze your credit to make sure that anyone who may have stolen your identity can't use it to access funds.
Now, Ben, we've talked a lot about the scammers. Are these individual actors or are these large-scale operations?
It's a mixed bag. We've seen individual actors, and we've also seen larger groups of people engage in these scams, and they're really all across the country and all across the world, which is why we work closely with our sister states to try to attack these scams, as well as our federal partners to make sure we can go after companies internationally.
Well, Ben, you've given us a lot of great information today. And before we end, I want to make sure that I give you the opportunity, just in case we didn't cover anything, something that you think the public needs to know or any information like that. So do you have any last words?
Two pieces of advice. One, I think a big challenge for people is that they are embarrassed when they are a victim of a scam. And you should know you're not alone. This happens to people across the country all the time. And the second piece is contact our office. We're there to help people. We have a team of folks who can steer you in the right direction and guide you through what can be a very challenging process.
Okay. Well, Ben, I want to thank you very much for coming today and sharing this information with us. I think the Office of Attorney General does an excellent job protecting the residents of the District of Columbia. So thank you.
Thanks, Chairman. Our partnership's great and look forward to continuing it.
For more information and resources, please visit the DCPSC's website at fightutilityscams.com.